Today we're gonna find out how 1095 and 1095 Cro-van differs from each other in a corrosion test. This might not be as interesting as an edge retention test, but if that's what you're interested in, I recommend Cedric and Ada's channel. He has a good comparison between these two steels. So the two knives we're gonna use for this test is a Schrade SCHF56 for the 1095. And as for the 1095 Cro-van, we will use a K-bar Becker Eskabar. In this test, we're gonna put the two knives in a glass of salt water for about 2 hours. Now I'm wiping down the blade with some denatured alcohol just to make sure that there's no oil that could protect the blades from rust during this test. The main point of this test is to find out which steel has a higher tendency to rust, if there's any difference whatsoever, since both steels are fairly similar. The only difference between the two steels are that 1095 Cro-van has added amounts of vanadium, molybdenum, nickel and chromium. These additions should higher the toughness and wear resistance of the steel, as well as give it a slight edge, pun intended, in corrosion resistance. Both of these knives came from the factory with some kind of paint on them. I've stripped it off ages ago because I don't like painted blades. But a quick note about both of these knives is that they're really good knives for the price. I think especially the SCHF56, since it's a very budget friendly knife, full tank construction, 1095 steel, and you get a ferro rod for free. The Eskabar is also a very good knife, since it's made in the USA, 1095 Cro-van steel, and it has a really good sheath. And it's also quite interesting that this knife came from a blade forms post where someone fused the handles from an Isula with a Becker necker to create this beautiful cutting implement. As you can see from the GoPro footage, the water turns dark pretty fast, and there's a large black spot that's building up towards the spine of the SCHF. Towards the end of this footage, there's also a dark spot that's growing towards the tip of the blade on the Eskabar. Now I am aware that 2 hours isn't such a long time, but I still think it'll give us enough evidence to prove whether or not there's any difference between these two steels when it comes to rust resistance. I myself have never had any rust issues with 1095 since where I live it tends to be pretty dry. Also, I take good care of all my knives. If you want to prevent rust on your blades, I recommend oiling them every now and then and making sure that they're dry before you put them in the sheath. So what I think we can conclude from this test is that 1095 Cro-van tends to have a bit higher rust resistance as compared to normal 1095. As you can see if you compare the rust spots that are towards the spine of both knives. Now, one thing we probably could factor into this is different manufacturers of 1095, and also I think most importantly the blade finish on both knives are a bit different. So is this super conclusive? Probably not. But hey, I think this can point us in the right direction of the answer at least. I myself prefer 1095 Cro-van, but normal 1095 is pretty much just as good. Thanks for watching everyone. Take care.